before the necessary action is taken. And then we want to talk a little bit about the year 1971, because 1971 was a very special year that triggered a lot of environmental action, which was very important for what we are doing now. And then after that, we conclude with some suggestions on what we would suggest to the government. It's a fictitious government. It could be India, it could be my home country, Germany, it could be his home country, Thailand, it could be any government. And is that okay with you? Is that an interesting way of forward? Yeah, good. So let's do that. Yeah, Tamrat, plastic paradox. Plastic, right? More plastic, more plastic, more plastic, plastic. So it's all around us. Next week, I have to fly from New Delhi to Paris, and the plane that I'm flying in is a Boeing 787, plastic. It's the only airplane that's built on carbon fiber, which is type of plastic. Car tires are plastic, styrofoam is plastic. So we are living in a world where we all consume plastic a lot. And it's a very important material for us. I don't think that we can really live without plastic. It makes our life very convenient, but we also know that it is polluting our cities, our rivers, our coastlines, our oceans. In the oceans, then it comes back to us because it's being consumed as nanoplastic and microplastic by zooplankton. Zooplankton is being consumed by other marine creatures that we then catch in the oceans and that we feed on. But also the plastic pollution, ghost nets in particular, are causing the drowning of marine turtles, the drowning of dolphins and whales. They also ingest plastic, and then plastic calcifies in the stomach, and then they stop feeding. So on one hand, we know that plastic pollution is very, very dangerous for us and for our brothers and sisters, the other living creatures on the planet. Still, we keep consuming it. The consumption is actually increasing. And yeah, so we keep consuming it, we keep producing it, we increase the consumption and the production. Still, we know that it is causing a lot of problems for our marine, coastal, and terrestrial and riverine ecosystems. So it's a paradox. We know it's dangerous, but we keep doing it. Comrade, what is your take on that?
Well, my take on that is about that the paradox is nice word, very fancy word, which is conflicts in between, right? As he said that we cannot live without plastics from now until maybe next 100 years, until we find out a new materials that cheaper, that stronger, or less problems than the plastics. We have to live with them. What on the other hand, that if we keep using them without any consideration of their pollutions in between, then it will cause us the most the problems. As he said that the micro, nano, and many others plastics in the ecosystems. It's not only in the river or in the marine ecosystem. Even in the air, we found out that you can inhale that kind of nano and microplastics. From where? Very simple, you burn the waste, right? In my country, for example, yes, we have a kind of a landfill site, but from time to time, people just get rid of the waste, including the plastic waste, by just simply matching, then turning into the fire, and then it's become the PM 2.5. I'm sure that Delhi also having the same problems that in my country as well, PM 2.5, the dust um, in the air, but in the dust, they're also having that the nano and the microplastics there. So we cannot avoid that, but I think we can prevent that if we can change our behaviors, our livelihoods, that how we can reduce the use of, especially on the single-use plastics. Yes, here we can use at least 2, 3 years. I don't know, maybe. Or our mobile phones. Yeah, we are the old generation, perhaps maybe 4, 5 years we change once, but the young generation maybe only 2 years. Oh, this is a new model. This is a new iPhone, right? You change too much. Somehow, this kind of a behaviors or the customs that we follow up on that kind of a fast fashion world, then we generate too much of this kind of a waste, not just only the plastics and many other waste as well. If we drop the piece of that the mobile phones, not only plastics, there are so many metals and many other chemicals that can release. So I think that's the big things that we also need to carefully discuss and how we can prevent the generation of this kind of the plastics. Otherwise, the young generations will be much suffering than our generations.
Thank you very much, uh, Tamrat. Um, I would just like to add that also our collective
Mm.
intelligence, respectively our collective stupidity, plays a great role in it. I give you two examples from Thailand, a country that I love, a country where I've been living for almost 5 years. That's where we know each other from. And I went this year again to Thailand. Now I'm living since almost 3 years in New Delhi, but I went to Thailand in July. And I checked. I went to 7-Eleven, which is a
Convenience store.
convenience store chain, which I like very much because very convenient to go there. 24 hours you can go there and buy things. So I want to buy a banana. A banana has a natural wrap around itself. It's banana peel. 7-Eleven wraps it in addition to that into plastic. And then you go and pay for it, and then they give you another plastic bag. And I'm naming 7-Eleven now because I think they are guilty of that. They should know better by now. The school children that we discussed plastic pollution with in Bangkok, they said, how can we do anything about plastic pollution when we go to the 7-Eleven and we are bombarded with plastic waste? So please, 7-Eleven, stop doing that. I hope that somebody from 7-Eleven hears me actually online. Maybe they don't like what I'm saying, but it's a responsibility. The same for another chain in Thailand called Macro. You want to buy a coconut. A coconut has a nut shell around the nut, then the white husk, and then the green peel. What do? They wrap the coconut one more time in a plastic foil, then they put the price sticker on it, and at the cashier they give you another plastic bag. Now, this is what I call collective stupidity. We should all refuse buying something like this, or we should leave that plastic waste in the shop. I'm not pointing my finger at Macro at 7-Eleven only. There's hundreds of these outlets, and I'm certainly not pointing my finger at Thailand, because in my country, in Germany, it's precisely the same thing. You go to the Aldi, you go to the Lidl, you go to the Netto. These are all stores that have a responsibility in this, what we are talking about. And every single item on the shelf is wrapped in single-use plastic materials. Now, these stores, they have a responsibility and they need to live up to it. Cannot just be done by policies in the countries. Some countries have already national plastic action plans. Indonesia, Vietnam, I don't know. Thailand has a national plastic action plan. Germany, I don't know. The Europeans actually came into that handling plastic properly very late, even though they claim that they have fantastic recycling facilities and everything. But then I'm asking myself, how come that solid waste from Europe and from North America ends up in in waste dumps in Asia? Now the Asians kicked them out. Now it ends up in Africa. I hope the Africans will kick that out soon as well.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking so openly because it has to be addressed that openly. We have to make our voices heard, and outlets like 7-Eleven, Makro, Aldi, Netto, Lidl, whatever, they have to participate in this, and they have to participate voluntarily and now, and every country and every grocery store on that. Let me come to the second point. Why do we always need catastrophic situations first
Mhm.
before we do anything about it? I mentioned the tsunami from 2004. I think it's a perfect example that nothing has been done. Hundreds of thousands of people had to die. And imagine all the tragedy and sadness that were done to their families then. So biodiversity loss, it's a catastrophic situation which we cannot see, we cannot observe it, but it's there. Climate change is something that, okay, perhaps we can feel it, but at least we can measure it. We heard the term climate events a number of times during this discussion here yesterday and today. Climate is being measured as the average weather over a period of 30 years. Having said that, there is not no such a thing like a climate event. There is extreme weather events. We also have to get the terminology right there. But why is it that catastrophic situations have to happen first? Plastic pollution. Plastic pollution exists since the 1960s in a very, very obvious scale. Why has nothing been done?
Yeah. Yeah, I just like to share this kind of that the catastrophes that we should have done beforehand. And I'm sure that scientists and many others, the researchers, the professors in US, in Europe, in Asia, as well knows pretty well. But how we can translate that into the political actions, not that just policy brief. We have heard so much of that brief that generated from institutions like AIT or UN agencies like UNESCO try to introduce to the governments. But they're okay, looks nice, but maybe later, not today. They may come up with that the better actions later, but not today. I think one of the things that we think it is not in our prompts yet. It is okay. It is contaminated to the marine life prompts. Yeah, that's okay if they can. We can say that if it is happen in our countries and then become a kind of the big events or the big things like the tsunami, then they may start thinking to actions. But then I don't think that it is the good approach for this kind of serious situations, like the plastics, because of the dolphins, because of the whales, because of dugongs dead, and then the many of breaking news through many of the social medias. Then people become starting thinking of that the plastic pollutions, and then blaming that the single-use plastics is the most the problems. But to me, it's not only the plastics, the single-use materials that cause the most. Whatever, even your food waste, it is because you eat and then you don't care, just throw it away out. Then it's another waste. Or even the paper, tissue papers. If you use too much, then you throw down the materials again, become the waste. Single-use plastic could be one of the approach that we can provoke the people interest that, yeah, we should stop um, disposing too much or consuming too much. Otherwise, we having too many kind of waste to discharge, not only the plastics. So I think I'm sure that my generation, our generations, not uh, uh, having so long problems to our generation, to my life, to his life as well. But the young generations, what should they do? We have you have to stay with that many mountains, many Himalayas mountains of the garbage, not only the plastics. I'm sure that in Delhi, in the Mumbai, you have plenty of that big mountains of the garbage. But how do we do with that? Whether you can have using your technology, your science to process them to be the business, to be the profitable products. This is one approach. If you can do, you can invest yourself, develop innovations. I'm sure that I think in that booths, exhibition booths, there are so many of that innovation as well. But how we can bring that into the profitable businesses? Then on one hand, that we can manage the existing garbage. That's my generation generate for you. But for your young generations, you also generate as well. But if you can find out the better way, how can you reduce the materials or change the behaviors that not to use this kind of a single-use materials? And then in the society, you may reduce a lot of that garbage. That's what I would like to suggest.
Thank you very much, Tamrat. Um, yeah, let me just like to add to that. When I go home to my country, my home country, Germany, and I go to one of the grocery stores, I like to eat fish. So I go to the shelf where I can find frozen fish or fresh fish wrapped in plastic. What really puzzles me that it is often labeled by international wildlife conservation agencies
Mhm.
as environmentally friendly. I find this totally shameful and I find this totally crazy and totally wrong. They shouldn't greenwash that way.
Yeah.
Greenwashing is something that we shouldn't do. Let me come to the third question. We have enough time. Or the third point that we raised. 1971. Does anybody remember the year 1971?
I was 2 years old.
So you were 2 years old. Okay. I was 8 years old. So some of us were born before that. Okay. Let's keep it like that to be polite. In any case, I think most in this room were born much later than that. Um, There was a conference in Stockholm in Sweden. I think it was in 1967 or 1968, the Stockholm Conference, 72. And there were other conferences at UNESCO in 68, 69, where it was already seen by professional environmentalists that the unbridled exploitation of natural resources could not continue as it was. That's 1971.
Mm.
So UNESCO established then the World Network of Biosphere Reserves in 1971. The same discussions from 1968, 1969 led then to the establishment of the United Nations Environment Programme in 1972. And it also led for the first international conference where these problems were discussed, which was the Stockholm Conference in 1972. Now, the Stockholm Declaration was the precursor for the Millennium Development Goals. And the Millennium Development Goals were the precursor for the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that we have. They forgot Sustainable Development Goal number 18, which is clean air, because on sustainability we can live 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, 3 minutes without air. So air was in the targets, yes, it's mentioned, but not an SDG on itself. In any case, what also happened in 1971 was the world's energy crisis, the oil crisis, because our life now, energy supply depends roughly on 80% of fossil fuels. In 1971, it was probably much more than that. That was the time, if we would have had educated leaders in political situations in the ministries of environment, which mostly didn't even exist, but also in ministries of agriculture, ministries of forestry, ministries of fisheries, and so on. That was the time when politicians should have said, okay, now is the time to turn to electric mobility and to clean energy. But we are talking about it now, only now, 50 years later. Tamrat, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, well, 50 years passed, we still working the same thing. That not just only this kind of the energy crisis, the West crisis, many other crises that happening from those days until today. So I think that there should be a kind of that the right message to those kind of the leaders. Of course, we can be the leaders to our societies, but who are the leaders that can change the policies and implement the actions? That's more important. I'm sure that there could be many of good ideas, innovations, and then the approaches that we should implement it. But who will do? We said that, well, all people should voluntarily doing and also ask someone to uh, be good guys to do that. But to do that, and what next? We are saying that, well, we should separate the waste, we should separate the plastics out of the others. But what next? That's more important. Or how can we bring that into the kind of the full industrialization or in business program that we can turn the West? If we have the energy crisis, why not we turn that the West into the energies, and then we can redo with that. Then there could be many things that there are many problems, many like issues, but we can turn that into the opportunities using your scientific knowledge and then the processes that we can turn that into the opportunities that I would like to suggest.
Thank you very much, Tamrat. Now, the reason why I mentioned 1971 is because, like you young people being with us all together in this room, I was also once your age, believe it or not. And I had my hopes and my dreams, which I still have. But eventually, actually, I wanted to become a doctor of medicine because I wanted to do something good with my life. And then I realized, there is another patient here, and nobody is doing anything about it, and that's our planet in peril. So I decided to become a professional environmental scientist or professional environmental manager. And we all here in this room, one way or the other, we are actually environmental managers because otherwise we wouldn't be here. So I couldn't even study environmental management because it didn't exist. So I went, and I'm sure, Ram, it was very similar for you, probably Tamrat for you as well. So I went to study geology. I realized not my piece of cake, so I went into biology, then ecology, then science, and then later I did my PhD in physical geography, which altogether was environmental management. And so I want to give that message also to the junior people among us. Go there, become environmental professionals. We need them in the future much more than now. Um, yeah, I think we still have time to interact with the audience, right?
1 minute stay.
No, that clock is wrong. So we we will take at least three questions. So we will not ask this to ourselves as we plan to do, but we will take three questions. If you could give advice to the government, to the president, what would you tell her or him? Now, who would like to make a suggestion what you would like to tell to your government? Come on, guys. You have imagination, you have some suggestions. It can be something funny if you want. Okay, we need to, no, that we need that through the microphone, please. We need, yeah, through the microphone. So if you can give us one suggestion, imagine he is the president, I'm the first lady, okay? I could also have said it the other way around.
Vice President.
Sir, here we have all been discussing about a lot of planning and lot of things on paper. But when you actually see, we are not getting the results out there in implementation. So I would rather ask what the policy they have drafted, and after implementation, what is the gap that has been happening, and the feedback on how much has been implemented. So by taking the feedback, we can actually figure out where are we lacking behind, and we can also see the skill gap and implementation gap that is happening. So that way we can actually all these policies, environmental policies that we are with on paper can actually be implemented properly. So I personally feel rather than making a policy around it, I think it's the implementation strategy and the feedback that helps us get through this thing. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting. I think your point is better data collection and analysis rather than developing another paper tiger and
Mhm.
another paper tiger. Exactly. I mean, what are the best plans good for? The best laid out plans if they are not being implemented. And we've seen that again and again and again and again. Now you are awake. So now we need 5 more minutes.
Sorry. So I am reminded of the Spider-Man movie. With power comes responsibility, right? And I think that's the most important thing, that the governments need to walk the talk. We've seen enough talking. The action is what is lacking.
Mm.
So unless the talk results into action, it's of no use. We can keep discussing. And what are we going to leave for the generation to follow? You're reminded of Queen's song again. Is this the world we created?
Yeah.
Probably. But that's the sad truth. The clock is ticking. Act now, otherwise it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You wanted to add something to that?
They have
What I
one
will,
more.
sorry.
Before we give the mic to the next, I like your suggestion. I thank you for that. Ram has been working for UNESCO. I'm working for UNESCO since 25 years. We kept telling to our own organization, let us walk the talk. We are teaching people, do that, don't do this, do that, don't do this. Now we are converting the UNESCO office in Bangkok as a Green Academy. We are converting the UNESCO office in New Delhi as a Green Academy. But why only now? We should have done that in the 1970s. So walking the talk has been forgotten for a long time. So thank you very, very much. Not only governments, all of us, everyone, including United Nations agencies such as my very beloved UNESCO. UNESCO is my favorite, so I work for them. But we also need to look into our own house and our own practice, and we have started to walk the talk now with quite some good success.
Yeah, I think I would say that we need very strong and heavy fines as well, because there's policies there, there's not enough implementation, and if we don't get strict about it, I don't feel anything is going to change. Once you face a consequence uh, at a smaller level, I think the habits change.
You mean fines?
I think that's the only solution that is left now for me. Penalties, yeah.
In the United Arab Emirates, where they were exposed to a lot of oil spills. There were a lot of oil spills in the Persian Gulf, probably more than elsewhere, in terms of number of oil spills, but also in terms of volume of oil that has been spilled. I think it was either in 2002, 2003, or 2004, the late president of the UAE has introduced death penalty for intentional oil spills. So that's the biggest fine. I'm not necessarily a fan of that one, but I agree with you that culprits need to be punished properly if they cut a tree illegally, if they spill oil, especially if it's done intentionally or based on negligence. But yes, because this planet belongs to us all. We are together. We are 8.1 billion people, and we cannot just let a few greedy ones, careless ones, take this all away from us. But again, yes, I think we all need to walk the talk.
Thanks, Benno. Very refreshing to hear. And, I think you're the first UN person who is saying that UN has some accountability too. So that's very inspiring to hear. I just want to, it's not a question, it's just a comment that what I'm seeing now, that there is higher regulatory pressure on the government, on the private sector as well. Like for in India, we have something called BRSR reporting, which the companies have to submit, which covers all aspects of sustainability from the DNI to how are they complying on other factors. So as ma'am said about fine, I mean things are moving in that direction after the Paris Agreement. Of course, a lot needs to be done. I think one area of opportunity for organizations is to work with manufacturing sector, which I feel a lot of waste that we see is generated because of the design fault. And if you live in a country like India, where 15% of global population lives, we are going to consume. So how do you make products that can be reused rather than if I use one shampoo bottle, I don't have to throw it in the landfill. Is there a process where I can get it refilled? So there are small innovations that are happening. But for organizations like UNESCO that also does a lot of environment education, I think one area to pick up is corporate upskilling and actually teaching corporates and professionals, be it manufacturing, be it lawyers, how do you integrate sustainability in your job? Because a lot of people who are doing it, they don't really know. Like I was doing a workshop a few days back, and people said, "Oh, climate change, that's something that happens to polar bears." So that's the level of awareness a lot of people have. So I think large scale public private partnership is need of the hour, and I think you have the power to move the needle, Benno.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you. Yes, it's a good one. Uh, I don't think that we need more regulations. I think we need better regulations. Because if you over-regulate, you can very, very easily be counterproductive in terms of environmental sustainability. And I'll give you an example from my own country. There's a lot of debate right now phasing out coal, disallowing wood burners in houses, forcing people to have other forms of energy supply. Now that exceeds the financial stamina of people. Then you will make them the enemy to the professional environmental movement very, very quickly. We don't want that to happen. We want everybody to participate. So regulations need not to be more, they need to be better. And they need to be done in such a way that they can be understood and accepted by the general public.
Yeah, so continuing with what uh, ma'am said right now and what you contributed, I believe for the generation which is, post 2000, born after 2000, they've been used to, or they've been brought up in a different consumption pattern as compared to the generation which was born before that. Now, to ask them to, discontinue a particular consumption pattern without giving them an alternative to depend on is a huge task. So, what I'm saying is that we have to be ready with technology, with alternative products. If I say to my child, don't do this, habit is bad, so then what is the alternate? If I am not ready with the alternate, then of course that practice is not going to become very popular. It's not going to become a part of your everyday consumption. So I think the technology enhancement in that direction has to come, where we can, for consumption, particularly for consumer goods, we are ready with an alternative, and that is how the things will change. Otherwise, they're not going to change.
There is an SDG for that. I think it's SDG 12, actually. Responsible consumption and production. And again, we all need these SDGs. They have been developed for us by our representatives collectively on the planet. So they are the challenges and hopes of humanity. And what you said, Madame, is absolutely correct. We need to have responsible consumption and production. So everybody needs to have an eye on it. Before we close, thank you. Before we close, since we have so many young people in the room that have been born after 1971, and some of you probably even after 2000, at least we want to have one question, comment, suggestion, recommendation, complaint, idea from you. Yes, please. Please.
I would like to propose you a project that has been started by Enactus. Enactus, so I'm from Miranda House, and our college has different societies. One of them is Enactus, and it's a global organization which works in around 13 countries, and one of its branch is in our college. So, to eradicate the plastic pollution, we have started a production of uh, packaging materials from mycelium and stubble, agricultural stubble.
Can you say that again?
Mycelium, mushroom mycelium.
Mushroom material.
Mycelium.
Mycelium.
Okay.
Yeah, mushroom, mycelium, and stubble. So, with this production, we are planning to eradicate, first of all, agricultural stubble burning, and second is plastic pollution. Because for packaging, we mostly use styrofoam or the bubble wraps, which creates a huge plastic pollution.
Mm.
Yeah, but the problem with that production is it's not very feasible economically, and we are facing a lot of problem in making it sustainable for a longer time. Yeah.
You need to have stamina to continue with that idea. You are not the first to have that idea.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, just outside New Delhi, there is the Regional Center for Biotechnology, which is a UNESCO Category 2 institute. Please visit them or contact me. I will arrange a visit for you. They have a startup on exactly what you have proposed. I visited them. There are 4 Indian ladies. They are collecting straw, I think rice and wheat straw, and then they put it into a warm incubator. First they wash it with fresh water, then they incubate it with fungi enzymes. I think that's what you mean.
Yeah.
And then they make a foam out of it, which can be used as a material to replace plastic, but it can also be used as an insulation material.
Oh.
So I think it's a fantastic idea. This is exactly what Tamrat and myself and Ram, I can speak for the three of us, we believe that the only thing that can bring us out of the economic world crisis that we have ongoing since 2007, 2008 is green economy. And for the green economy, we need sustainability education. This is why I'm so happy that the Mobius Foundation is doing this for the 6th time.
Mm.
And we need systematically not just educate children through schools or then later young adults through universities, but also young people need to take it up by themselves. You can very easily obtain information and ideas from the internet, and you can also develop your own ideas and then systematically apply for that. What you need if you want to put such an idea, which is it's a green economy idea,
Yes, sir.
technology engineering based idea, if you want to put that through to financial profitable success, you need to have stamina and you must never give up. But you will fall from time to time. It will hurt from time to time, but you must never give up. Or don't start. So think it very well through. But I will give you my card. You can contact me together with your friends. You can also come to the UNESCO office in Chennai. We are based next to the Asian Development Bank. You can come and I can connect you to the speaker from the plastic panel. He was from the Dr. Arvind Sahu. He was from the RCB. They would be very delighted to host you, I'm sure.
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. One more? Can we have one more short, very short? Nobody will like you anymore if you don't allow.
It's fine. I am sorry, but
It's okay.
mm,
It's okay. You can ask us the question.
yes, we can all have more discussion afterwards. And thank you, sir, for your time. Thank you for your such an open and honest conversation. And I think I'll take this privilege as the moderator that you asked in the beginning, what will you tell the president and the first lady? Just 2 words: be accountable, and then we can keep doing. Also, thank you for giving us food for thought, quite literally, as we are literally fearing plastic in our plates right now. So, thank you for your time and thank you for so skillfully explaining us and interacting with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, for the next session, I would like to call upon Ms. Priyanka to introduce the next speakers. Priyanka.